Welcome back to another episode of Minnesota Left-Handers. And Nate, what do you got playing right now? Is that me or is that you? Oh, that's me.
Is it you?
Oh man, our openings are awesome. All right, hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode, another podcast. What episode is this? Like 15 now? 14?
This is number 15.
15. So welcome to episode 15 of the Minnesota Left-Handers podcast. As always, I got my buddy Nate, the mastermind behind the whole operation here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. I would like to just reiterate that I also have never done an interview with Alan Shipnuck. I guess if you don't know what that means, you're gonna find out soon. But I'm doing well. I had an opportunity to play golf with a pretty interesting, pretty fun group here yesterday, and so we'll talk about that soon. But yeah, things are going well. The weather in Minnesota was great this weekend for some golf.
Yeah, it's and today was just as nice. Just the wind kept me off the golf course, and as well as some of the family events. So I hate to say it, but unless we get another day like today or yesterday, my clubs are probably hitting the hangers until we hit some simulators, unfortunately. So
I was gonna ask you about Thursday.
I'm
thinking about
Thursdays are always open for me, but if it's supposed to be nice enough and it's not 50 degrees and nasty out, I'd still go out there and hit some.
What about sunny and like 55? I think that's what we're looking at.
It's as long as there's no clouds.
We'll talk. Oh, okay. It's all about the cloud.
Right. All right, so let's jump into this. The first thing that you sent me over was this whole Phil Mickelson drama. Not to be too confused with, like most of the LIV talk that we've been talking about lately, but just kind of like a sidebar and him doubling back and doubling down on calling this guy a liar and this and that and stuff like that. What do you got for us?
Yeah, there's a link. I think I even gave you a time. Just play like the first 20 seconds or so of Phil there.
The one off his Twitter?
Like the very first link there.
Last year, which you've apologized for.
Where it says,
just wondered how you feel about now you're here. Have you changed your
Phil.
opinion?
So it's at the top of the page. Phil denying ever talking with Shipnuck.
Okay. Makes it always summarize. Okay, so this is the article. So let's play the So it's the Twitter.
About this country last year, which you've apologized for. Just wondered
as well.
how you feel about now you're here. Have you changed your opinion?
So I will reiterate, I never did an interview with Alan Shipnuck, and I find that my experience with everybody associated with LIV Golf has been nothing but incredibly positive, and I have the utmost respect for everybody that I've been involved with.
So yeah, basically him saying, "Hey, I've nothing but positive things. LIV Golf, Shipnuck, never talked to the guy. Never. What's his name? Who is he? Never heard of her."
Alan Shipnuck. He's a golf writer for golf.com, maybe Golf Digest, something like that. But he's also part of that Fire Pit Collective, which is, we referenced them earlier in a previous episode, but it's a pretty bold statement, given I've got a screenshot. I don't know if you can even get that up on the screen, but from February 17th, 2022, so earlier this year, Shipnuck put out this in the second paragraph. Where should I start? I'll start here. Admitting the SGL was nothing more than what he called sports washing by a brutally repressive regime. They're scary motherfuckers to get involved with, he said. We know they killed Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi and have a horrible record on human rights. They execute people over there for being gay, knowing all of this. Why would I even consider it, which would be joining LIV? Well, because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour operates. That's why he's willing to sort of compromise his opinions, I guess, on human rights. they've been able to get by with manipulative, coercive, strong arm tactics because we, the players, had no recourse. So to say that he never did an interview with Alan Shipnuck would suggest that Shipnuck made up that Phil said that. And those are some pretty strong words to just say that somebody just like to just make up.
It's getting way too political, dude. This whole... I mean, does this not sound like a politician? Or even like the PEDs with athletes, you know, Lance Armstrong. No, denial. Never took a PED. Never. And then, you know, next thing you know, he's off the tour because he lied. I just right. Don't know who keeps these guys accountable from the truth or not. You know what I mean? There's no checks and balance system to call his BS, you know?
Sure, right. I know it's gonna be the 2023 golf season, which technically has started, but you know, next major season, April through August, like the meat of the golf season is going to be quite interesting. Speaking of majors, do you have that quote from the main head?
Yeah,
Saudi Arabian
Majad Al Saro, the head live guy. In quote, or I'm quoting him here so for now the majors are siding with the tour, and I don't know why. If the majors decide not to have our players, I will celebrate. I will create my own majors for my players. And then you got a map here, so what's cool about the map is this is Augusta, and it'd be right next to Augusta.
Yeah, and this is just me guessing. This isn't what he said he would do necessarily. But, you know, we obviously know Augusta National hosts the Masters, which is a big deal. But Augusta, is it Augusta Country Club or something right there? Like,
yep.
Butts right to it. Like, the two edges of the courses almost run next to each other. It would be so funny to have, like, you know, Rory and, I don't know, Matt Fitzpatrick, John Rahm, you know, these guys at Augusta. And then, like, the same day that they pull in, this big private jet pulls in, and off comes Pat Perez with his mullet, and like Bryson and DJ, and it's just like this big party, right? And they're playing for $30 million, where I think if you win the Masters, you get something like $2 million, which is insane. Like, it is, but their purse, you know, right next door could be worth $30 million, which would just be a slap in the face.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. And so speaking of, like, you know, switching over to the PGA Tour and the majors, and just touch on one more thing about the majors. Okay, the majors have history. Okay, you can't just create a major. I mean, you know what I mean? It's something that's been around forever. You're gonna create your own major. All you're gonna do is create a bigger purse and a bigger event. That's all you're gonna do. I mean, you're not fooling anyone. It's not going to be a huge. It won't be a major. It'll just be a large event.
Right, because majors, it's about the special moments and the history, like you said, of it all. And you eventually would have history in the LIV majors, but it's going to take forever to get there. You know what I mean? There's something about the 150th, you know, Open Championship that we had this year, and the Masters going back to, you know, the 1930s. There's just something about that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we've only been, I mean, probably yourself, you can't say you've been a fan, you know, like the majors, you only go back 25 years maybe as being you know what I mean? So I'll give him, it'll take him at least 25 years to build a major, you know?
Oh, for sure.
So now, talking about the majors and like the PGA Tour, so the PGA Tour came out kind of with their new thing for the new golf season with these elevated events. These are
in response to LIV, right?
Right. So these are the events that PGA Tour requires these guys to go to. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not all in one month. They're spread out throughout the year. You got January, they got Century. In February, you got the Waste Management Phoenix Open. In March, you got Bay Hill, the players, match play. April, you got the Masters, Heritage. May, you got Wells Fargo, PGA. And then June, you got Memorial, U.S. Open, Travelers. July, you got Open. And then August, obviously, we all just went through August. Those are very familiar on everyone's mind. You got St. Jude, BMW, and then the Tour Championship, which most people will want to be at those ones that they're bringing in there.
Right. Now, I've got a few things I want to add to this. A few things I want to say about this elevated schedule, but I'm a little thirsty. So before I do that, I'm going to take a drink of something here.
Oh yeah! Look at you, just the drip, the Minnesota left-handers drip, the hat, the cup. We got towels now. We got keychains now.
The pro shop is filling up.
It's getting big.
This was a gift from you that I appreciate very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for the
water
hat.
Seems to taste better out of it. I don't know. But anyway, back to the elevated events thing. There's pros, there's cons. One of the things that I really think is neat is that after the Masters is the RBC Heritage. That was given elevated status. Now, a lot of the top players will leave the Masters and will not play in that tournament. And so that city, those charities, those sponsors, the volunteers, everyone involved with that is now going to get to see Rory and Rahm, and it's going to be cool for them. You know, I mean, you look at like the 3M where we didn't have those players. And
I was just going to say, it'd be nice to see those at the 3M elevated event.
Right. And so I'm going to get there in just a second. But I think that's cool about this elevated thing. The second thing I want to point out is usually the Waste Management Phoenix Open is elevated. Particularly for 2023, we are going there the 26th through the 30th. It's coming the next weekend. It's going to be elevated, and the Super Bowl is going to be in Glendale, just, across Phoenix, the other side. The area is just going to be buzzing. It's going to be awesome. We should change our trip to that weekend.
Yeah, no, it would. It's going to be so crazy. Everything's going to be so much more expensive, though.
Yeah, it would be. And that's why flights and stuff are cheap the week we're going. But the other thing that I thought was cool, the last thing I'm going to mention about this, at least this part of the conversation, is that it doesn't seem, they've said that they're going to reevaluate future golf seasons. So these elevated events could be a rotating thing. Whereas you'll probably have a handful that will always be elevated. Genesis, Bay Hill, things like that. But like RBC Heritage may not always be elevated. They might rotate through that. So the 3M could be an elevated event in the coming years, which would mean that we would be getting the biggest names on the PGA Tour showing up at the tournament, which would be cool. I mean, I think the Twin Cities would appreciate that.
Yeah, I care less to see Rory. I don't like him.
I know, you're such a hater.
Dude, Rory is... God, I cannot stand him. He's such a nice guy, though, eh?
But, the other side of this is that Rahm, there's an article that came out recently. It's called "Rahm's Not Sold on the New PGA Tour Schedule."
That's what I was leading up to next.
Yeah, I pulled the link here. Can you open that below the screenshot?
Yep.
It's like a link shortener or whatever.
Yep. Jon Rahm still not sold on PGA Tour's new schedule requirements. Nearly 2 months after the PGA Tour announced its top players committed to playing 20 events next year, Jon Rahm is still worried about how much golf he'll have to play.
Yeah, so they committed. They said that they're going to play in 20 events because the reality is, as fans, We want to see the top players playing together more often. That stretch that the 3M Open is in just isn't appealing. It's a long stretch of, Jason Day and Tony Finau and Ricky Fowler being the biggest names out there. And that's just not cool. Though Ricky making a comeback. And so that's a good thing. But at the same time, I hear what Rom's saying. He said I played in 17 last year, 17 events or something. And I don't know where I'm going to fit these other ones in. The article gets into the minutia of, what it takes to qualify for, the Ryder Cup and the majors and the FedEx Cup and all these things. And it's definitely worth a read. But I don't necessarily want to get into all of it right now. The point is it's going to put a lot of strain on the top players too, though. To be expected to play in these 20 events.
And here's another thing that it talks in here is the DP World Tour events. As long as 3 are the Rolex events and 1 is the player's home country to maintain their memberships, I mean, it's a lot of golf. That is a lot of golf. And then, I mean, Rom's going to live. Rom's going to live.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know when it happens.
These elevated events, what if they got like you can't call in sick to these? This is like if it's your daughter's graduation, you're not missing you're missing that to go to this elevated event. Like to put that kind of pressure on these guys, I don't know. I just don't know if that's. I wish we had like a PGA. When you sent me that fire pit thing, that was cool to have a perspective of a PGA player that was like didn't hate LIV. They were kind of like pro LIV, but played in the PGA Tour and didn't. And honestly had. I wouldn't call it a bias, but I mean, he gave you a perspective of like, okay, me and the PGA, and this is what the LIV's like, and this is what we like about that, and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It was pretty interesting on how he really connected it for me, and there was a few things that I learned about the PGA Tour that I didn't really understand either that were pretty cool. Credit to the Fire Pit podcast.
Yeah, and you're talking about the interview that they had with James Hahn, 2 weeks ago maybe. Definitely go find it. It's interesting because you're right. It's not some LIV bashing PGA Tour player. And the thing about James Hahn is he's been out there for 10 years. He's been playing on tour for 10 years, but he's never been and will likely never be. In that secret players meeting. Remember we talked about that?
Yes. Yep.
Players in the world.
I was going to go into that too.
He's not getting invited because he's one of the remaining 200 or whatever is on the PGA Tour. Like, there's so many guys that just were unaccounted for in that meeting. And for him, it was interesting. At one point in that interview, he says, "Listen, I'm still driving a 2015 something vehicle." Forgot what kind of car it is, but it was like a 2015. Like he's fun, like he's making money. He's got a career, and he's probably got a pretty decent career going. But we might be talking, after travel expenses, which is a big number for a guy like him. He might be taking in $150,000, $200,000 a year, which is like a good number. But when we think of professional athlete, we don't think of 150 to 200,000 as being a good number. We always think of the millions. And so he's just a guy who's just making it. And so LIV might be tempting for a guy like him, that guaranteed money. And
there was one point, I don't remember if you remember the interview, but he was talking about like showing up to an event where they didn't have rental cars or something like that. And it was kind of a big deal because it was just kind of a shit show for him to try and for these players where everything ain't set up and whatnot. I don't know. The LIV is doing a lot for these PGA Tour guys. They have opened up a huge something that needed to happen for the PGA Tour. And Phil kind of alluded to that in his supposed not interview with Shipnuck. You know what I mean? It says in there on how he was doing this for the PGA Tour and what needed to happen for that to get better.
He took a lot of shit for what he said and how he said it and his tone, and Phil's gone off the rails, whatever people said about him. But he was a catalyst for a lot of this change. And so maybe he's onto something,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that part did stick out to me, and it made me think about another article I saw with a caddy who caddies over on the LIV Tour with some player over on LIV Tour. It was an anonymous thing, but he said it's the best experience he's ever had, and he's made so much more money with LIV than he ever did on the PGA Tour, and he also felt like a person there. It's almost like here he felt like a necessary just widget, like just something that had to be there. No one really talked to him. They didn't really put him up in nice hotels or pay them well or pay attention to them. He said at LIV, there's people like waiting to say hello when you walk in to like the caddies. So it's like a whole different experience. It's almost like, I'm sure that this was part of it. Greg Norman was like, all right, here's all the things that need to change just from a personable relationship thing. And they seem to be able to be pulling that together.
So this whole CJ Cup thing, okay? Can you explain to me?
The tournament that just ended today.
Yes. Can you explain to me why Finau ain't playing at this? Why Zalatoris isn't playing at this? Obviously, I know why Cameron Smith isn't playing at this.
Right.
Jordan Spieth. Why are some of these guys not at this event? And people like Victor Hovland, Rory, Rahm, Billy Horschel. I mean, some of these, because I'm looking at the official world golf rankings. Okay, there's some familiar names here. You know what I mean? And you're missing the Dustin Johnson, the DeChambeau, the Koepka, Cameron Smith's name is still on there, but why don't these guys show up at this tournament? Yeah, Rory, you won. Congratulations, you won. But it's what bothers me about the PGA Tour, and what's different of LIV is when you're LIV, I mean, these guys are pretty much at every single event because they're not playing as much golf, correct?
Yeah, they're contracted. Technically, LIV said you have to play for this season, you have to play at our 8 events. But after that, we don't care where you play. If the PGA Tour said, yeah, come to the CJ Cup, you could play at our 8 events and the CJ Cup. We don't care. It's the PGA Tour that's saying no. You know what I mean?
So why aren't these guys playing in the CJ Cup?
Because it's a fall series thing, and they don't have to. There were, I heard an announcer say this, there were 15 of the top 20 players in the world, according to the less than thorough OWGR at this point, right? We know it's less than thorough because you're missing Dustin, you're missing Cameron Smith. They're not getting points, so I'm not going to say that it's a proper ranking at the moment, but based on what they're using, 15 of the top 20 were at the CJ Cup.
Rory was there. Scotty was there. Cantlay wasn't there.
No, I don't think so. Justin Thomas was.
Rahm was there. Schauffele was there. Will Zalatoris was not. Justin Thomas was not. Colin Morikawa. Justin Thomas was.
Yep.
Morikawa was. Fitzpatrick was. Hovland was. Burns was. Spieth was not. Finau was not. Kim was. Billy Horschel was. Cameron Young was not. Max Homa was not. Matsuyama was. And CJ Im was. But now you switch over and you look at the leaderboard. You got McIlroy, obviously number 1. Katayama, which is he's like he doesn't do anything, and then all of a sudden he'll show up, and then he doesn't do anything, and then all of a sudden he'll show up. It's the craziest golf game you ever see. KH Lee.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Okay, and then you got Rahm, and then Fleetwood. Okay, well, he's been around forever. You recognize that name?
He's been playing terrible.
Yeah. Aaron Wise.
Who? Watch out for Aaron Wise. Gonna have a big year.
Okay.
But
B. Todd, Sam Burns, Hodges, Horschel, Jason Day. I mean, like, I want to see. I just hate this. Koepka. You want to see DeChambeau, Dustin Johnson. I mean, I want to see the best golfers in the world here. You know what I mean? You're just not seeing them.
Yeah. But I also think that you're giving too much credit to the CJ Cup, in the sense that.
Okay, that's what it's got to be.
This is that fall series thing where we're between the Tour Championship. I mean, in theory, it used to be that the PGA Tour ended with the Tour Championship right before the NFL season, and then they picked back up in January. And so you had October, November, and December off. I mean, there was like silly season events like the father-son, and Tiger had his charity event or whatever, but there was nothing FedEx Cup point-wise and things like that.
It feels like you're
and then
pushing
they add it in. Yeah. And so that's why a lot of guys just take these events off. Like, they're like, I just want an off season. Because think about all of every other sport, they get an off season.
Yeah,
so
but then think about that. If Rory's out here contending for a number 1 spot in the world, a number 1 spot, I mean, these guys are getting the repetitions in. They're playing tournament, What's it going to be like when Finau tries to come back? Or, I mean, Spieth's pretty much irrelevant now. He's like the next Ricky Fowler. I mean, when these guys have to come back and start playing, these guys are already primed, ready to go.
And worn out and not well rested. So, I mean, there's kind of 2 ways to think about that. But I think you're going to see a pretty good drop-off after this tournament of, like, what's next? The Butterfield Bermuda Championship? Like, that's not, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. Like, that's not really an event.
Yeah, Bermuda Championship.
You're just not going to see a lot of names on these leaderboards. So they are eventually going to just kind of force themselves into an off season. But I think that would be the reason you're not seeing the Jordan Spieths of the world at an event like this. And for Rory, he defended this title. He won last year and then played this year because of that. So kind of a cool course though. In South Carolina, a place that I would like to go see, part of the world where I think we should make a golf trip at some point, just to, kind of the whole Pinehurst, even down further south, the whole low country of South Carolina. I think it'd be kind of a cool trip. I liked watching it because it was a cool course.
So, speaking of like PGA Tour and kind of going off our last podcast, you think LIV does a women's?
Well, I do. I think that they're gonna bring in a women's side, and I think it could be as soon as they decide to do majors, they'll bring in the women's angle. And honestly, my projections aside, we know that the women make a lot less. I put in a comparison on the set list.
Last week,
it's about a third.
Yeah, last week the purse was 1.8 mil for the LPGA, and the PGA was 10.5.
Oh, geez, it's not even a third. It's way less.
It's like a fifth.
What do you think? And I put this out as the question of the day. Sort of a two-part question of the day. One, do you think that the disparity between the money between the men and the women on LIV would be closer? Like the women would make more in LIV than they do on the LPGA Tour? And we saw a pretty good exodus of PGA players. We all know the list of names who left. Regardless of if we know the LPGA names as well or not, do you think that you will see as many women leave, or do you think that they'll stay with the PGA Tour?
I think more leave, not for the money, but for women's rights stuff in the Middle East. More of a social justice thing.
So you're saying they wouldn't go to LIV?
They would.
Oh, to just kind of stand up to it?
Yes. Yep.
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah. That would be my reason. I mean, if I was a woman and I was going to the LIV, it's not about the money, it's about social justice.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that, but I could see that happening, where more go, especially if the money is closer. It's not a tenth of what the men make. Let's say on LIV, some men's tournament they make $30 million, but on the women's side they make $20 million. So maybe it is less, but it's still 2/3. It's not 1/10. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it would be more equal for sure. So, in on the topic of, positivity and social justice and bettering the world, the Golf Cures Humanity skit here. What do you got for us?
So yes, this is something I'm bringing back this segment of golf going to be the cure to all of humanity. When I saw this came up as an Instagram reel. I couldn't help but smile because dude found golf, man. And for everything that it is. This is a bit of a longer clip. I think it's like a minute.
I'm going to play it because we got about 5 minutes left.
I think we got to play the whole thing, and then we'll wrap after that.
Golf is the greatest sport of all time. Of all time, dude. Recently with work, I work with a bunch of old men, and they got me into golfing, and I was like, who wants to go out there and smack sticks and smoke? It's stupid. It's an old white man sport. I'm addicted. I am wholeheartedly. I should have never tried to go play college football. I should have never tried college football. I should have been swinging a golf club since I was a kid. There is something just about a sport that you're so bad at. I'm so bad at golf. But all it takes is for me to hit one half decent shot, and I'm pretty sure people mistake me for Tiger Woods. Yeah, there's Tiger. I'm like, no, sir, it's just me. It's just Malik. It's not Tiger. Yo, the other day I golfed. I hit one of my best drives. I've been working on my game a little bit. I'm trying to make it to the tour. I hit a nice drive on my 18th hole. You couldn't have told me nothing. For most people, you don't go up swinging a golf club. Like, nobody's like, yo, you want to hang out after school? Let's go golf. You'd be like, you're a weirdo. But now I'm getting older. I got a job. You know what I'm saying? I got a family. I was like, let me just try to go out there and golf. It is the greatest sport of all time. It's the greatest, most frustrating, most beautiful thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I can't wait to just, I'm about to go play right now, actually. Now I think I'm going to go play right now.
I'm going to go play right now. This is the most beautiful, frustrating, awesome sport you'll ever play.
His excitement for the game is just it's it. I mean, it's what makes the game so great. So whenever we find, things like that, I think we got to share them here. It's really fun.
Yeah, when you flush that iron and you hit it exactly where you wanted to hit it. Hey, is that Tiger? No, it's just me. Oh, it's great. I love it.
to that point, how frustrating it is. I played yesterday, out at Fox Hollow. Actually, Break 80 posted on Instagram. He's like, I got a spot open. And I jumped on it. I was like, hey, I'll come out. So I ended up playing with, remember, we met him out at the 3M. So I went out and met him out at Fox Hollow there in St. Michael. Here's my round. I know we're short on time, so I'll start you at hole 10. I shot 39 on the front, feeling pretty good. And then this happened. You familiar with that?
Red Hot Chili Peppers. Give it away. Give it away.
That's what I started doing. I doubled 10, and then I got to 11, and then here's what happened. Doubled 11. And then I kind of eased into it, got it figured out a little bit, started putting it together, get to the 18th hole. I had fixed it. I was feeling okay. 18 tee box. Doubled 18. I couldn't pull it together, man. It was brutal. So I ended up shooting 84. But it was a fun round with a guy who I've kind of started to follow a little bit. He's got his own podcast and stuff going. So it was a good time.
That's awesome. Well, I don't want to rain on your parade right now, but them NFL pick'ems last week, not good.
Oh. I don't know that we have time to go game for game, but 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I got 10 wrong. There were 14 games.
Let's do the ones you got right. You had Minnesota over Miami. You had the Rams over Carolina.
Yep.
Seattle over Arizona.
Yep.
And the Chargers over Denver.
That was it. And this is again for week 6.
Yeah, and
this Sunday night.
We couldn't do the pick'ems this week. I was moving. I apologize to all of our immediate fans out there. Moved into our new apartment. We're set. Podcasts will be every Wednesday now. It should be terrific. So everything should be good.
Yeah, no, these things are gonna come up. It's gonna happen. So we don't have picks for week 7, but I'm not sure. That might be good. I might have needed this week to go back to the drawing board.
Bad week. Seattle beat the Chargers. Was it today? Oh, it was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Green Bay lost to Washington. What? Oh man.
The Bucs. Who'd the Bucs lose? Oh, PJ Walker led Carolina Panthers beat Tom Brady.
Oh my God,
it's
just
bonkers, man.
Bad week in football. Well, hey guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, like, subscribe, check out our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Substack. I mean, we're all over out there. Nate, you got some great stuff out there, some more content out there for people. We'll be coming up with our event here shortly. Other than that, anything else you got for us?
No, I'll post a few pictures, but if you want a towel, some golf balls, let me know. We can get you set up with some of that and more of that to come. But those will also be at the events. So when we come up, make that official announcement, be ready for that because those will be included as well.
All right, guys, have a good night. Nate, I will talk to you later.
Cool.